this week we're going to be dealing with the food programs and healing routine. First, let's just talk about the food programs. There's kind of like three of them. Um, and these are healing routines and then ongoing way of living to be healthy. I mean, once you have had to do the incurables program because you have had a major disease in your body, you do not get to go back to McDonald's and eating French fries and pizza. That will never again be a part of your life because your body will go downhill so fast if you degrade it with that kind of stuff. So don't think that the changes are just going to be temporary just to get you well and then you get to go do all that other stuff again. You know, you say goodbye to Ben and Jerry's, you say goodbye to pizza, all of that, and you find and enjoy other ways. You have to develop your taste and your interest in other things, because to go back is to commit suicide. Your body will just go down the tube so quickly. You can clear the disease, but you have that innate weakness now in you where it can come back. So just know that the healing routines are forever, and it is a way to live, to be happy. I mean, isn't it better to be healthy and be able to do all the things you want to do instead of being constantly plagued with just feeling sick and bad? It does get better, but it's not a temporary thing. This is forever. So the three programs, and the first one I'll mention here is the most intense, juice fasting. Juice fasting is where you are turning your body as alkaline as possible. The alkalinity is what your body needs to neutralize the acidity that is the disease, that is the bad in you. So when you are juice fasting and you are just drinking your juices and drinking your water and your juices and your teas and all that, and that's all you're getting down, you are getting a ton of nutrition. Do not think that you are starving yourself, because you're not. On juice fasting, you also use the superfood, which provides the protein. The grasses, the superfood has a very high content of protein in it. So you are not starving your body. You are not degrading your body at all when you juice fast. There's plenty of nutrition there. So let's talk about juice fasting. When you are doing a juice fast, you can do all you want to juice in the day for the day. Okay, so you can make your juices in the morning, and then you can store them in I like to use 16-ounce canning jars, and I fill them to the very brim so that not another drop could get in without spilling over, and then you put the top on and screw it down. You've got no air in that jar. If you don't have enough juice to fill up the jars all the way, or you're not comfortable filling them up that far because you take the lid off and it will spill, I don't have that problem. But for somebody who is a little more incapacitated, you know, if your hands are shaking and things like that, you may not want the jar all the way full. So what you do then is you take a piece of plastic wrap and you put it down right on the juice in the jar so that you get the air away from the juice, and then you screw the lid on over that plastic wrap. And that will keep the air away from the juice so it does not oxidize, because the oxygen is what destroys the nutrients in the juice. And so you can juice in the day for the day, and you make all your juices in the morning, and then you just put them in your refrigerator, however many you need. I usually, when I'm doing a juice fast, I will do my vegetable juice and my fruit juice. And you do not mix your fruits and vegetables unless you like to be gassy and bloated, which feels really, really bad. I mean, you're already not feeling good, and then you make yourself bloated and gassy. That doesn't work. So do not mix your fruits and vegetables. You keep those juices separate. The one exception is apples. Apples are digested by both sets of enzymes, so you can have apples in your fruit juice and apples in your vegetable juice, and you will not be bloated or bothered by the apples. They can go both ways, but that is the only exception. There are no others. So the rule of thumb is that you do fruit juices in the morning. They give you a little more sugar, a little more pickup. So coming on after your overnight fast, fruit juices until noon, and then your vegetable juices in the afternoon. And then, of course, you also want to make your potassium broth, which the recipe and all that for doing the potassium broth is in the liver flushing and kidney flushing ebooks that you can download from my blog or from Lady of Herbs. And the potassium broth helps with your electrolytes, and it's also very satisfying. I have found that the potassium broth has saved me from breaking off my juice fast more than once. I mean, you're getting down to the end where you're saying, I just need something to eat. Well, that potassium broth with a little bit of sea salt in there, and you just kind of chew that drink down, it is so satisfying. The old timers, they did peeling. I don't do peelings because you just have no use, and I just can't throw out all those potatoes and carrots. So the old timers had you do carrot peelings, potato peelings, and then you would do your greens. And I didn't bring the chart up here. Like 50 cloves of garlic. I'm just giving you a rough estimate of what it is, but your pot is about 25% full of russet potatoes, and I don't peel them. I just cut them up.
Okay.
And you're gonna just put those in, and then the next 25% is carrots and I believe onions. I'm not sure. Yeah, if somebody remembers and has it in their head, speak up, because, and then I believe the next 25% is greens, your dark collard greens, beet tops. Oh, and yes, the beets. You also add beets in with the onions and that. I'm not remembering completely, but what the gist is that you're adding all this stuff in there. You cut them up, you put them in, and then you've got like 50 cloves of garlic in there, and the recipe is in the book. But then you're going to put that on the stove, and you fill it up with water to the very top, and you put that on the stove, and you just let it simmer for 2 or 3 hours. And all the nutrients, and you're not actively boiling it, it's simmering for 2 or 3 hours. And everything in there just gives its nutrients up into the broth that you're making. Then at the end of that, you strain off the liquid, and you save that. That's your potassium broth. And you just throw the other stuff out into your mulch pile or wherever. Because it's no good, and it's so soft and mushy you can't even think of using it in a recipe. It's just yuck. So you strain that off, and that is your potassium broth. And you can make up a gallon at a time, which will usually be good for 5 days. I mean, you can do it once for a week of cleansing.
But I have a question.
Yes.
Oh, I have a quick question. Okay, so supposedly potato is my main allergy according to my nature path. So will I still get potassium with the other vegetables?
Yes, you will still get it. Just leave the potatoes out. And I would just increase the others a little past their area, so that, do a third of each of the other levels in, because the potatoes get 25%. So now if you go with a third for all the others instead of 25% a piece, you'll fill your pot up. And you're just leaving the potatoes out.
So what kind of potatoes?
Pardon?
What kind of potatoes?
You want the russet ones, the ones with the thickest skin. Yeah, the russets have the thickest skin because the nutrients are actually in the skin.
Right, okay.
But what I love about potassium broth when you do the whole potato is it's so satisfying, because you do have some starch from the potato in that.
Okay.
And that just really makes you feel like you just ate something.
Okay.
Now,
Darn, so-
what about like sweet potato? Oh,
hold on.
This is
Go ahead.
Maxine. I
Yes,
believe
Maxine.
it's also celery. Do you use cayenne pepper or habanero or?
Yeah,
another?
I throw a little piece of ginger, a little piece of horseradish. Sometimes I throw a little oregano into it. You know, it just seasons it up a little better. And I always put some jalapeno peppers in there in the top. In the very last section, you can throw in some stuff for seasoning. And yeah, it's really good.
It really
Go ahead.
is.
Did you have a question?
yes. I just wanted to know, like, can you put sweet potato instead of the russet potatoes?
No, because what we're going for, the sweet potatoes do not have the nutrient value in their skin.
Okay.
It's all about the skin. And if it really bothers you, go ahead and peel the potatoes. And if you have a big family around, take some peeled potatoes to your mama or your brother's house and say, hey, make yourself some mashed potatoes.
Okay.
And you can peel them, and then you won't have the starch from the potatoes, because I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
And you can go ahead and peel them, and then just use the peelings instead of the whole potato, and then you'll get the nutrients without the starch.
Okay. Thank you.
But sweet potatoes won't do it. They don't have the nutrients in the skin.
In the skin. All right. Thank you.
Okay. So the potassium broth, you can drink that fairly freely. Usually 2 or 3 glasses in the day isn't bad. When I'm juice fasting, I usually have between 6 and 8 16-ounce portions a day of juice in my refrigerator that I make in the morning, and then I drink those throughout the day. And when you are juice fasting, the worst thing you can do is not have juice right there with you. I mean, the whole thing about it is not limiting yourself, but you should always have a glass of something, either the tea that you're drinking, the juice, the potassium broth. You should constantly have something in your hand, and you're constantly drinking it down. I mean, the worst thing you can do is let your tummy get empty and let yourself get hungry.
Okay.
That's the quickest way to break yourself off of a juice fast, is just going too long without drinking. And yes, I know you're going to be in the bathroom a lot, but oh well. You can deal. This is to get you well and get you better, and you're flushing the disease out. Every time you go, you're getting rid of a little bit more of what's in you. So yes, it does increase the output, but it's all good. And the other thing with the juice fasting program is you do continue to take your #1 poop pills. And if you have, to make yourself a little more comfortable on a juice fast, you can actually do a teaspoon of psyllium husk powder once a day. But if you're doing the intestinal #2, now I haven't always done the #2 when I do a juice fast, because I haven't always done the juice fasting for a major disease issue. Sometimes, you just juice fast because you want to lose weight, or, you're just down and you just want to do a really nice week of work for yourself. So you do it. And in that case, I don't tend to do the lower bowel #2 formula, which is where the psyllium husk and all that is. So if you're not doing the lower bowel #2 for whatever reason, if you're doing the Incurables program and clearing a major disease, you should be doing it. But if on the other side, if you're not, you can take a teaspoon of psyllium husk powder once or twice a day, and that will keep your bowels bulked up so that you don't end up with drippy bowels.
Okay.
Because that's the one downside to juice fasting, is the way that the liver dumps and all that comes out is just really drippy and miserable. And the psyllium husk will take and solidify all that together in your bowel so that you have normal bowel movements. So using the intestinal #2 or the psyllium husk once or twice a day will prevent uncomfortable bowels while you're juice fasting. Okay. Any questions on this before I get to getting off the juice fast? Any questions on actually doing it?
When it comes to the potassium, when it comes to their broth, should you use organic vegetables?
Yes, you should use the best you can get your hands on. Don't not do it because you can't get your hands on organic. I mean, if all you can get is just whatever's down there, you use the best you can get your hands on. The Lord will bless your efforts. He's promised to bless us. But yes, you want the highest quality of it you can get, because the pesticides are not going to do you any good floating around in your broth.
Okay.
And if you need to, I mean, go ahead and soak the vegetables in your sink in water, and you know, and clean them really well before you add them to the broth, which will be helpful also. But yeah, get the best you can. Okay, let's talk about now the actual juice fasting, how you do it. I mean, there is, you know, what you're going to drink during the day and all that, but there is also, when you start a juice fast and when you end it, there is a protocol to follow, so that you are making your body, when you do a juice fast, you are making your body so alkaline that if you were to go from, let's say, 2 weeks of juice fasting and then sit down to a nice vegan meal at your table, you would be sick as a dog. Your body is going to take that cooked food and say it's poison. You are so alkaline at that you have to step up and step down into juice fasting to do it comfortably. So for an extended juice fast, and some people, they juice fast when they're on an intense program, the incurables, you can end up juice fasting for 2 or 3 months or more, you know, depending on how serious your program is. There are some people that go on a juice fast and stay on it for a very long period of time. Now, the rule of thumb is when you come off a juice fast, it's going to take about 1/3 of the time that you were on it to get off of it. And the way that you come off a juice fast, if we're going to say that you were on one for 30 days, okay? So you've been juice fasting for 30 days, you've got your incurables program going, everything is doing really well, and you're ready now to step down and to do some raw food. You know, you're going to step down on your program, take a little break from the real intense stuff, and you want to do some raw food. All right. The first day to come off, you only eat one food. You can have as much of it as you want, but you're only going to eat one thing. So, and it is not going to be cooked, it's going to be raw. A lot of people come off with apples. Apples are very easy, and they're also going to be easy on your stomach, because you're still going to be drinking your juices to make up the nutrition. So, but you're now introducing some solid food back into your body. So, it's just one food, and you can pick whatever you want. It doesn't have to be apples. It can be bananas. It can be a vegetable. It can be whatever you want, but it's only one thing, and it's raw. It's a raw food, and it's just one thing, and it needs to be a raw fruit or vegetable. And you do that for, you just have that one food that first day, and it may be 2 or 3 days before you can add the second food. When you come off a 30-day juice fast, you may need to stay on just one food for 2 or 3 days. You're going to feel it in your own body, but when you're ready to add the second food, you can then add whatever else would go with that, of another fruit or vegetable, so you're now eating 2 things. And this is on an extended juice fast. This is not where you're doing your 5 days of juicing and then eating raw on the weekends and going back for another 5 days of juicing and then eating raw on the weekends. This is when all you're doing is juice fasting for 30 solid days. So you build up, and you're going to spend about 10 to 15 days coming off that juice fast before you can actually think of introducing cooked food. So, and this is allowing your body to accept the less alkaline foods back shorter periods of juice fasting. And this is what I prefer myself, because you don't have to fight so hard not to end up crashing. What you do when you want to not have to come off an extended juice fast, you do your 5 days of liver flushing where you're juicing, and then you step down over the weekend. So you're juice fasting from Monday through Friday, and then on Saturday you eat raw. On Sunday you can have some cooked food, and then on Monday you go back to raw food and into your kidney flushing program. So between liver flushing and kidney flushing, you have the days to step up and step down. If you're going from kidney flushing where you're eating raw back into liver flushing, then you can go right back into it because you're already raw food, and so you can just step right back into juice fasting. Have I confused you all, or are you following the logic here? Any questions on coming off and starting a juice fast? It's all just a matter of allowing your body to decrease the alkalinity gradually so that your body will not react to regular cooked food like it's a poison, because the alkalinity is so low, it's just going to reject it, and you would feel really awful. Okay, so that is basically. Does anybody have any questions on juice fasting? Anything that needs to be answered?
Dara, this is Anna.
Yes, Anna.
I do.
Yes.
A couple questions. Number one, when is there kind of a rule of thumb when you should juice fast?
Liver flushing is best with juice fasting. When you're doing your week of liver flushing and the detoxing, not an ELF,
Right.
An ELF is not a detox, okay? But when you're doing that full week of liver flushing with the detox formula and all that good stuff, you're going to get the best benefit from all that work if you juice fast. And if you have a major issue, I mean, if the doctor says you're on your last leg and it's all but over, and you really don't want it to be over, you may want to go on an extended juice fast, juice fasting for the liver and the kidney weeks, both of them. And you can step down off that over the weekend so that you don't have an extended period and you don't have to come off it really hard. It just depends on how weak and how sick you are. I mean, if somebody is really weak and really sick, it's going to take so much out of them to eat food. I mean, if you've got somebody that is really debilitated, feeding them food, feeding them something solid like that is like the worst thing you could do, because all the energy is going to have to go to digesting that food, and there's not going to really be much left for healing the body. And they need the nutrients from the fresh juices just to start rebuilding. So, depending on the situation, you kind of play that by ear, but liver flushing, definitely you want to be juice fasting.
When you were doing your juice fasting, can you still lose weight, and it's still okay for blood? Like if you have blood sugar issues, to have straight carrot juice, that won't make you your blood sugar go up and down a lot?
Yeah, if you're diabetic, you probably should be diluting your juices and not doing the fruit juice. When you're detoxing, it does put a stress on your organs and on your body. And if that happens, go ahead and use the pancreas
Daryl,
support.
you was talking about the juice fast, you had to, as a diabetic, you had to dilute vegetable juice or just the fruit juices?
Anything with carrot juice has also got quite a bit of natural sugar in it, which can be
Mhm.
very difficult for a diabetic. Yeah, it would probably be a good idea to be diluting, depending on what you can do. I mean, if you're watching your numbers and you're doing all right and you're using the herbal supports to support your blood sugar and all that,
Mhm.
and you can handle it, you know, it's a very individual thing. But just to be safe, I have to say that if you are diabetic, you definitely need to be conscious of the juicing. And most of the time, especially when you're just starting into it, you do need to dilute. Even
Okay.
beginning, you know, with the supporting herbals and all that, you'll still need to be diluting while your body is getting itself back in a good place.
So should it be half juice and half water, or what's the percentage of water?
I've had some people that were such brittle diabetics that we were talking a quarter of a cup of juice to 3/4 of water.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it depends on the person, on where you're at. I mean, you need to be poking yourself, taking your numbers, and just seeing, you know, you have to be conscious of what you're doing to yourself. You know, stay conscious, stay responsible. Ready to move on to the raw food. Okay, the raw food is, this can be done, and it can be done with the liver flushing also. It does not have to be only kidney flushing but know that the raw food is a step down from juice fasting. With the juice fasting, you are saturating your body with alkalinity when you do the juice fasting. When you do a raw food program, you should still be juicing. This does not mean that you do no juicing. You're still juicing, but it's just supportive. Maybe 2 or 3 glasses of juice a day, and you're eating your meals. So even though it is the raw food program, there is still juicing involved. You would do your juicing in the morning. You would add juice to your superfood, and you would be using your superfood as your heavy protein when you are eating raw. Okay. The raw food, it can be any fruits or vegetables. You want to go very, very light with the nuts. Nuts are very hard to digest. I would find, you know, if you're on the skinny side and you need to not lose more weight, then you can actually make yourself some cashew milk, you know, cashew cream, and add that to, you know, drink a cup of cashew cream or whatever for extra calories. Most of us are not on that side of the world, but for those who do not need to lose more weight, the nuts can give you, your nuts and oils can build up the calorie intake that you're getting during the day. But the raw food for most of us would be fruit salads, vegetable salads, just eating basically just raw. And a lot of people don't like tofu, but tofu is alkaline enough. It's considered a raw food. And so you can actually make a nice salad dressing using your extra firm silken tofu. And just add some lemon juice and some garlic and throw an avocado in there and whatever, and just blend that up, and you can make a little sauce to go over your salad, your vegetable salad, using the extra firm silken tofu. But there are tons of raw food recipe books out there. You know, check them out. Just when you're eating raw, It's not a matter of limiting how much you eat. It's just a matter of limiting the kind of food that you're eating. So everything does need to be raw. And the whole point of the raw food is to be alkaline because of the alkalinity. Cooked food is very acidic. And you want your body to not have to remove acidity from what you're eating, but just from the diseases that you're clearing. And that's the whole point in this. Okay, any questions on raw food?
No.
Okay. All right. These are the raw food and the juice fasting are the two programs, the two food programs that are used when you're trying to heal disease from your body, when you are trying to get yourself alkaline enough so that your body can clear the disease out. But now let's talk about ongoing food programs. You know, what do you eat when you're now going to go back you've got your body under control and you're now ready. You want to eat food, cook food. Okay, the best food program for most people is the vegan vegetarian food programs. This is the food that God gave us to support our bodies with, and just giving up meat and not replacing it intelligently with the proteins and the nutrients that you need is where a lot of people don't manage vegetarian and veganism well. I mean, they just cut the meat out and start eating salads. Well, guess what? That ain't going to do it. I mean, you're going to end up hungry and malnourished. You need to learn what foods to replace. Your beans are your highest sources of fiber and protein. A really good ongoing food program is considered an 80-20. I mean, 80% raw, 20% cooked food. And the way that this is the one that Dr. Malcolmist had, if any of you knew of Hallelujah Acres. I don't know if he's out there all that much anymore, but he had an 80-20 food program. And the way that this looks in real life is you eat raw for breakfast and lunch, and then for dinner, you start with a raw salad and then eat whatever vegetarian cooked food that you want. And that will keep you pretty much 80-20. Just eating, you know, fruit salad or whatever, or your superfood in the morning, you know, your drink in the morning, and then for lunch you have either a fruit or veggie salad, whatever you want there, and then for dinner you have your vegetable salad, and then you have whatever cooked food that you've decided that you want after that. And that is a good 80-20 food program, doing it that way. And there's a lot of I believe he actually had a cookbook, Hallelujah Acres cookbook. I believe it's still available off Amazon. Yeah. And it's got some really good recipes in it. One thing that I have come across in a lot of vegetarian cookbooks is the seasoning is so poor. The food is bland and it doesn't taste good. One that I have been very happy with, it's a cookbook. It's called The Happy Herbivore. And her seasonings in there are absolutely fantastic. Her food, her recipes are so good. If you're looking for something with some interesting food, The Happy Herbivore, she's got several recipe books out there now, and they're really, really tasty. Check her out. That's some seriously good food. Now, another way to eat, and this is my way of eating. As many of you know, I lost a ton of weight, and I'm still figuring out how life works and keeping it off. So I'm very conscious every day of what I'm doing and what I'm putting in my mouth still, because my body still wants just to pack it back on. And I ain't going to let that happen. So I do, what is that called? Interim fasting, or what's the word?
Intermittent
Go
fasting.
ahead. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word, it left me. Intermittent fasting. And that's what I do. I have a window a day of about 4 hours, 4 to 6 hours, when I allow myself to eat, and I usually only eat 1 meal a day. That seems to work pretty well. The 1 meal a day, I have pretty much cut out grains. They just don't agree. You know, you have to just look at what you're eating, and when you're not just stuffing everything in your face all at once, you can kind of gauge how the different things are going to be affecting your body when you eat them. Things that are absolutely not acceptable is anything that has sugar in it. I mean, sugar is gone. You can have honey, you can have maple syrup, you can have molasses, but table sugar is poison. Table sugar, when you eat sugar, it coats your immune cells and will shut down your immune system depending on how bad your pig out was. For anywhere from 4 to 24 hours, you have no immune system. It coats the cells and just kills them off. They're gone. So, you know, with everything that's floating around out there, if you want to keep yourself healthy, you do not need to be putting sugar in your body. There are a lot of other ways and some really good things to eat without putting sugar in there. Yes.
I have an issue with a lot of beans. It really doesn't just make me gassy. It really hurts my system. I feel very sluggish, extremely bloated, and I just don't process them well. It's not every bean,
Okay.
but I know for sure black beans, there's certain beans that I just can't touch. Do you have?
Yes, I have found that for myself too.
Okay.
There are some beans I just plain cannot eat. I have played with a lot of them.
Mhm.
Black-eyed peas. I've always loved black-eyed peas, but I can't eat them.
Mhm.
They absolutely do not agree with me. Lentils don't do as well. I can have little bits of lentils, but they don't do as well as the chickpea does.
Mm.
And the chickpea and the chickpea flour, that does really well.
I have that. I don't have an explanation for this. I just know it's true. It seems like certain types of lentils bother me, others don't. Brown lentils do not bother me at all. So I've learned to steer clear of certain things.
Yeah, we have to find out what works for us. But I agree with you that the beans, I cannot eat all of them. I mean, I made my husband over the weekend, and then I just made him another pot of chili. And from bulkfoods.com, they have a chili mix with 4 or 5 different beans in there. And I had some over the weekend, and then I had just a cup of the fresh one that I made last night. And I was up 3 pounds this morning. It popped my weight, and that's ridiculous. So he loves it. I mean, he absolutely loves that bean mix, but I can't eat it. It's popped my weight twice now.
It's bloating. To me, it makes you retain fluid. So fluid goes off, then the weight goes down a little bit. I mean, I don't really monitor my weight with the beans, but I just know that I swell. So.
Yeah, it does seem to be a bloating effect. One of the things I didn't go over, when you are doing a not an extended juice fast, but let's say you're doing your 5-day juice fasting, and then, you know, eating raw and cooked food on the weekend and all that. Let's say that you're on a program and you just start crashing. Your immune system is used up, you know, what I've talked about in the past, where you need an immune cell to attach and neutralize the waste and to get that processed out of your body. And for whatever reason, you're crashing. You know, you may need to be upping your echinacea intake. Your body is dumping waste at a more effective way. All this is going on, and you've got headaches, body aches. You're just, you feel awful. You are crashing. The way to put the brakes on the detox, okay, you are having a detoxing overload. Your body is throwing off so much waste that it can't get it all processed out. So you need to slow your detox down. Okay, the best way to do that is a serving of brown rice or a baked potato. And I don't know if sweet potato works on that. I've never thrown a sweet potato into that mix. I would think that a baked sweet potato would probably be effectual, because what we're doing here is we're introducing some cooked food, which is going to introduce some acidity into your body, and it's going to slow. I mean, you're not going back to eating a whole meal. You're just eating a portion, a small portion of brown rice, a baked potato, whatever. And it's just to kind of put the brakes on the detoxing. And then you would continue on, increase your echinacea, do what you need to do, and slow down on your tonics that are detoxing you for a day or so, and let your body get on top of the waste that's being eliminated. There are some sample schedules in the liver flushing book and the kidney flushing ebook. Those are samples and they're suggestions. You need to take those and work those into your lifestyle and just make out a schedule that's going to work for you with the program that you're on and what you're taking. Okay, good routine, good habits. Just trying to think, getting up in the morning when you first get up, some of the first things that really get the day started well is doing your hot lemonade. You know, first thing in the morning, getting that cayenne into you. If you can tolerate it that early. I mean, if you do it on a regular basis, you will be able to, you know, taking it early like that. Let's say you get up in the morning and your bowels aren't moving, everything kind of got tightened up, you're detoxing really well, and everything just went tight. So what do? You probably need to go ahead and get your ascorbic acid powder, your vitamin C, do a vitamin C flush, you know, get that started so that your bowels will empty out. I find that quite often, taking my hot lemonade in the morning will loosen the bowels and get them moving, even when, you know, everything got a little tightened up, that will get stuff moving in the right direction. If it doesn't, go ahead and do your vitamin C flush. And once you know what the numbers are that you need to take for that, you can take it all in one drink. For me, it's 5 teaspoons, and that will get my bowels flushing. And so if I wake up and I'm having a bad bowel day, I can just do 5 teaspoons in 1 glass of water. And I usually have 2 or 3 hours before it kicks in when I do it that way. When you take it every 15 minutes, it's going to be kicking in about an hour and a half. When I take it all together all at once, I usually have 2 or 3 hours before it actually starts flushing and clearing my bowels out. So I've got a little bit of a leeway in there to go take my morning walk and do my stuff before I'm actually clearing my bowels out. But I know it's going to happen. Okay, questions that have come up on routines is how often should you do an ELF or a kidney or the intense kidney flush? These things, depending on how intense your cleansing program is and what you're doing, when you feel yourself going down, the kidney flush, of course, that emergency kidney flush routine, that 3-day kidney flush, if you see your blood pressure spiking or getting a little wacky, or your back starts aching a little bit, like your kidneys are talking to you, those would all be indications that the kidneys need to be flushed out, and you need a little extra attention on the kidneys. You would want to do an ELF whenever you start feeling just backed up. Or doing an intense program, you just need to set up a good routine of doing it once or twice a week, just depending on the intensity of the program that you're doing. So all those things are very, very personal. And I would say when you're doing a really strong program, just set one day aside each week, and that will be your ELF day, when you just flush that liver through and get it cleared out.